Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers Sunday Show, proudly sponsored by local dart shop online. Huge thanks to John and the team here. If you're looking for Scott, Scott has flaked off. He is apparently ill, so there's nobody else but me. So sorry, everyone. However, we are joined by the rest of the Sunday team, apart from Dougie, who needs 8 weeks off to move house. So God knows when we'll see him again. Cheryl, good evening. How are we?
Hang on, is Dougie moving house? He's barely mentioned it. Listen, other than that bombshell, I'm doing really well. Thank you. We were discussing before we came on that I think it's a month since the Sunday show was here and we're in decidedly better times. So I'm doing great. And it's lovely that you have gone with the creme de la creme of the Sunday show and Rob as well. So excellent.
Oh, Rob, the old chat slaying continues, mate. How are you? Well?
I was until that last brutal comment from Cheryl there, but given that she is the darling of the Sunday show, I'm pretty sure that I'll survive that one. It's but I'm good, mate. Yeah, started to get my ass back in gear. Did the couch to 5K started that today, and like Cheryl said, it's been a month, and all manner of positive things that we can talk about from a Rangers perspective, which is nice for a change.
Yeah, don't worry, Rob. She's only the darling for the thirsty dads, but the true people tune in for us, mate. Don't worry. Yeah, what has it been like the last month or so? The Sunday show last went after Tynecastle, and ever since then we've been quite frankly brilliant. Sunday show missing, Rangers been good. If something happens next week that's bad, we might have to revisit this, folks, but we'll play it in mind. But anyway, Cheryl, yeah, Rangers have won 6 games on the bounce. We've came through a really tough run of form, run of fixtures with a good run of form. Nice result at Parkhead, a double win over Aberdeen, beating Motherwell and St Mirren, which isn't easy. So we're in a pretty good shape. We also made pretty light work of Annan, which we'll discuss also. But Rangers are doing well, and it's a stark contrast to when you were last on.
Yeah, absolutely. And even that within that 6-game run, Stevie, so if you look at St Mirren and Motherwell, we rode our luck a wee bit. I remember sitting in the kind of last 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the St Mirren game. And in hindsight, we were absolutely fine, but you were kind of watching behind your fingers and you were quite nervous. If you look at how well we did, particularly the second half at Parkhead and those 2 games against Aberdeen, even within those 6 games, there's been a real turnaround of form. We're actually putting teams away properly now and really, really starting to build something. And I think a huge amount of credit for that has to go to Danny Rowe, but also to these players as well that we have week in, week out being absolutely trouncing. You can tell the confidence. I think after the game on Friday, Danny Rowe referenced the confidence and the feeling in the dressing room after that Aberdeen game last Sunday. So I think we've done exceptionally well. Also, just to concede 2 goals and score 15 on that 6-game run, I think has been really, really impressive.
Yeah, it certainly is. I didn't even know that, Rob. What have you made of recent Rangers form? I would love to say that it was expected, but they have somehow found a way into what looks like some decent form.
They have, and like Cheryl said, I think for players that we had been having concerns about, some of them are actually beginning to step up to the plate. I think as much as we've ridiculed him a wee bit, the big Portuguese Peter Crouch and Chamiti is looking like he could be a useful player in this squad. I think you really notice when he's missing out the team, we lack physicality up front, we lack an outball, we lack somebody to hold it up. And when he's in the team, his build-up play has been brilliant. You obviously got a nice little double against a certain team as well that's going to help his confidence. But players like Asgard, who I think we've all doubted on this show and on the Four Lads network because of his work rate. But he's scored 4 and 6 now, including an absolute worldie that we'll probably talk about on Friday night. And that's what we always wanted to see. Is we wanted to see more out of the current crop of players and give the manager a little bit more quality. It's going to make for a really interesting second half of the season because we are right bang in this title fight now, and Danny Rowe's kind of dragged us back into it. The great thing for for me, like Cheryl said, is that in those 6 games, we've kept 4 clean sheets and we've only conceded those 2 goals. For a defence that is still questionable is remarkable. To be honest, that we've been on that run of form. And I think when you look at, it's Motherwell, Aberdeen twice, Celtic and St Mirren in the league that we've played since that result at Tynecastle, they're not particularly easy games at this moment in time. Motherwell are flying. Aberdeen always try and raise their game when they're playing us, even though we kind of handle them fairly easily over those 2 games. So it's nothing but positive at the moment, Stevie, I think, and hopefully with a couple more additions, it will set us up for a right good goal this second half of the season.
Yeah, we'll come to the additions and individual players in a minute or two. Cheryl, what's been the highlight of that run for you that Rangers have went on? And how do you think that it's suddenly changed from Tynecastle being a bit of the same old, well, this is what we expect of this team, to suddenly becoming a consistent team that has, as Rob said, played their way back into a title race?
I think if you think back to Tynecastle, Stevie, I think up until the goal we were doing all right, but the midfield was non-existent. I think Diomande having his moment at Parkhead, because again, I put out a tweet on X afterwards saying, we've flagged off Diomande for months, but he was really part of the reason that we managed to drag ourselves back in it and then go on and win it. I think the work that he's done at the back as well, we're completely solid. Rob mentioned it as well, only conceding the 2 goals when we were conceding goals, we weren't scoring. I think that's a big difference. I think the fact that the team are chipping in for goals as well. You have Fernandez going up for headers, you have Asgard chipping in. It's just hugely different. But the biggest thing for me is the confidence that these players are playing with. I think the belief, it was very, very clear, and we all know why, that they had no belief in what Russell Martin was doing whatsoever, and quite rightly so. But you can tell that these players believe in what Danny Role is asking them to do. They're carrying out his instructions, and we're seeing it come to fruition as well. So I think for me, the biggest change is he's sorted out the midfield. We know we need more additions. He's got us much, much tighter at the back. And dare I say, we're even starting to look decent-ish, or producing a wee bit more up front. I would still say, and I know we'll come to it later on, we need somebody else up front. We maybe need a few out and somebody else in up front. But we're seeing Chimiti, his work off the ball is also now coming into scoring goals as well. But we're playing with that belief and that confidence, and for me, that's absolutely massive.
Yeah, that's certainly evident. We all said for a very long time Rangers are a confidence side, Rob. But one of the biggest things, I think, is Danny Role's got to be able to take the next step, and he's managed to solidify this group. It doesn't always look fantastic, but they find a way. Pataudry was very professional, a very disciplined performance. I liked his answer to that. 3 points, clean sheet, job done. And it's just efficient, and it's the way I should imagine he is. Liam Kelly spoke about it all being very simple and getting the best out of players, no nonsense, that kind of thing. It's fair to say that they do look coached under him, and they haven't in previous times. But now Danny Role needs to take the next step. He's spending money, and big money, big players, big money. He was in a position where everybody was always going to back him and say, no matter what with this squad, he's only doing what he can. Now that he's starting to spend money in, the expectations is going to go up. And somewhere along the lines is as well, he needs to solve the issue in the final third where we're not quite creating as much as we should be. We're not quite looking as dangerous as should be. And he needs to find a way to make sure that the nines are getting clear chances. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is Danny Rose took it to a level where everybody's been like, you've done absolutely fantastically well. We're in a title race, and he's brought us back into it, doing an incredible run of form. How does he take it up to the next step with a group that's largely the same as the one we'd previously written off? And that's going to be a big challenge because the expectation levels have risen.
You're absolutely right. I think the thing that I guess excites me is just the profile of player that's coming in to complement what we've got. You look all the players that we've targeted and have signed are over 6 foot. There's going to be more of a physical presence in the team. You'd like to think once all those players are in that starting 11, 2 of those players are title winners from their previous clubs and within their history. They know what it takes to get over the line in a league season, and it's a proper national title. It's not your championship like Joe Rothwell came when he won with Leeds last year. It is a proper title in the main country's league. And I think the biggest challenge for us is finding somebody to stick the chances away at the moment. You know, Miovski, great to see him get a hat trick against Annan, but up until that point, we've been guilty of not really putting chances on a plate for him. Chermiti has had opportunities, but there's been a few that he's missed, and Danilo, you know, hasn't exactly set their header alight. I think if we could add a number 9 that is going to finish those chances, because just as we were talking, I had a quick look back at the previous league games. Only the Celtic game is a game where we didn't create chances in double figures. So we created 28 chances allegedly against Motherwell, 16 against St Mirren, 22 in the home game against Aberdeen, and 18 in the away game. Now, half of them were only on target, but if we can get somebody that is going to make better of the chances that we are creating, all of a sudden it changes some of those games, because we take 2, 3, 4 of those chances instead of it being a 1-0 or a 2-1 like it was against Motherwell and St Mirren. You breathe easier a little bit. So for us, it's about the marginal gains that these players are going to bring in. And I think simplicity is the key. And that's exactly what Danny's done. He's made it simpler for the players to understand their roles and responsibilities on the pitch. And players are now stepping up to the mark. We've always spoken about this. The coach and manager can only do an element of it. Once the players step over that white line, it's up to them to grab the games by the scruff of the neck and grab it by the balls. And to be fair, there's a lot of them now. You know, until the injury, Connor Barron had been running his socks off in that midfield. Diamandi's beginning to look a little bit better. Raskin's upped his game. You know, Asgard is starting to contribute. So there are more positive signs from a lot of these players that we've seen. And even like Manny Fernandez looks a lot more solid when he's got somebody like a Suter with him at the back.
Yeah, individual players have absolutely stepped up, that's for sure, Rob. I think, Cheryl, one of the main things that concerns me, Rob did rhyme off a lot of stats there about apparent chances and things like that. There's not really many clear-cut chances in there. And we need a way to try and be incisive in the final third, which I don't think we have. Obviously, Skov Olsen has came in. There's going to be a great deal of hope that he will bring that on the right. And then you've got Kasama on the left. So who plays 10 for me? Tello Asgard, and I'll continue to say, does his best work too deep for us. He doesn't penetrate the forward line the way I want him to, and he's got all the ability, and he can score goals, certainly has. So I wonder if we need a forward next, and that's kind of where I am. I know he wants a 6, I know he wants a forward as well, so will we get those two? We'll see. But I would like to see this Rangers team create more clear-cut chances and be able to feed Miovski and Chermiti, because with Miovski, he'll score goals, but we don't create enough chances for him. Annan being the outlier, I suppose. I need Rob to be telling me 28 chances at home to Motherwell, and 6 of them were clear-cut opportunities. Of those 28, I would love to see how many were clear-cut, because it doesn't feel like, to me, we've sorted that little bit. But if we can, and if Danny can, then we're going to hurt a lot of teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me at the moment, it's Moore. He would be the one that I was leaning towards in that 10 role. I know when I looked into Chikwani, I think he can play 10 as well. I think he can play pretty much anywhere across the midfield, but I think we would be better using him as a 6 at the moment, especially with Connor Barron not being about. I think we're talking about chances. We know we need to bring somebody else in, but what we also have to reference, and I've seen it in the comments as well, is just the difference, Stevie, that Scott Fry's making. The difference in those set pieces, those corners, those free kicks actually coming to something. I think that's been a huge part in the last few weeks in that run of 6 games. It's been massive, because before that, when was the last time we'd scored from a set piece? When was the last time we had a set piece and you were actually fairly confident that it would be on target, let alone go in the goal? So that's been huge for us. And I know maybe the first couple of weeks of him being here, we all had a wee groan that nothing had changed. But I think he's been instrumental the last few games, actually getting us chances and getting those chances scored as well. Look at the difference that Fernandez is making, Asgard's goal as well. I think it's been huge. But I absolutely agree with you. I think we maybe need, sorry Stevie, to see one of our forwards, and there's probably quite an obvious one going out before we get anybody else in. I'm not sure if we're reliant on that, but we definitely need that player up front that can assist and can make the difference and get those goals.
Yeah, referencing Danilo, I think that's fair. He's certainly, over the last 6 weeks, there's certainly been a regression in Danny's play. I'm not quite sure what that is, whether he's unfit, he's carrying something. He just doesn't look right. He doesn't look like he's involved. Games are passing him by. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be players that will certainly move on in this January window. I've referenced before that I feel like they'll be towards the end of the window, because who's going to come in and want to pay Danilo or Dowell or Bayrami or any of the ones that we might think want to go out those big wages when they can sit and wait till last minute in January and save themselves $100,000. And I think that's the way it'll work, especially the likes of Rothwell and things like that. Rob, spoke a wee bit about what we need and the creating chances and things like that. What do you make of the signings that have come in so far? Tour Romans has come in £3 million. Tucci Chukwuani's come in the best part of £4.5 million. And then we've obviously spent a high value loan on Skov Olsen with all the intentions in the world that if he comes in to sign him in the summer for big money. I find it amazing that Tour Romans and Chukwuani have come in with very little fanfare. It's like, right, who's next? And even, you've seen and I suppose the point I'm getting at is £7.5 million for these two boys, and it's just like, right, okay, fair enough. So what do you make of the signings? What would you like to see happen next?
I think you can't help but be excited, Stevie, to be honest. And I think for me, it's a great signal of intent from Andrew Kavanagh and the wider executive team. I think they recognised they made a mistake in the summer. And I think you can only judge them on what they've done since then. And that is remove the problems and look at how they can help fix the problems. And you cannot say that they aren't putting their money where their mouth is. I think for me, the exciting thing is they're all going to bring a physical presence to the team. Magoma's done a great job at left back, but the fact that Tour Romans is coming in as 6 foot plus, seemingly very good defensively as well as going forward, really excites me. I'm not going to pretend to know or have watched a lot of these guys, but the one that we've always been linked with for a while is Skov Olsen, and I think because of that long history of being linked to him, and it's a position where we've sadly lacked players for a number of years, that's the one that gets me excited. You look at the time that he had at Bruges, I think that's probably where we can draw most comparisons from. He was a real goal threat, played an integral part in a couple of title-winning teams at Bruges, won the Belgian Cup, so comes with a great track record of being able to get people and teams over the line. Speaks himself about he wants to be a creator, he wants to assist, but until we see them in the shot, that's always the benchmark. Players can talk a good game in these interviews, just like Asgard did when he first came. Understanding the pressure and the expectation at Rangers is different to other clubs, and that's what's going to be really interesting to see is can these players step up to that. Interestingly, he's going to be one of the more senior players in the team at 26, so it's going to be good to see if they can then start to bring in and level up the existing players there. And it would be great to see them starting to pull their teammates up once they're a little bit more comfortable and holding them accountable, because ultimately it's up to them to be able to help them to help improve the rest of the team. Looking forward, I definitely think we've got to sign a striker and a striker that can score goals, but equally we can only do that if we're going to be creating better, more clear-cut chances for them. And I think that's, you're right, that has been part of the problem. You think we've now got Gassama, Mikey Moore, Skov Olsen, Asgard potentially there. There's a number of players now that we can potentially rotate and hopefully add a bit more going forward. I'm not going to butcher his name, so I'm just going to call him Chucky. You've got Chucky, Barron, Raskin, Dio, who are going to be more of your sitters potentially. So that I think there's a really good balance in that squad now, and a bit more depth which is great. I'd love us to sign another centre half, just to give us a wee bit of comfort. You know, Sterling's fragile, and I don't really want to have to see Giga in the team again, because seeing him back against Annan was enough for me for the rest of the season, to be honest. And then if you're being really, really greedy, you'd probably want another right back as well, potentially. But again, priority striker for me is the one that I'd love to see coming through the door next.
Yeah, I think I would agree that a proven finisher or a forward type player is where we would like to see. I would say that I think Rangers' main business is done in left back, centre midfield, and Scott Olsen on the right. And by that I mean they're not done in the transfer market. I think these will be the three key targets they would have said, and now they'll maybe look and see what opportunities present themselves, because they will. It's World Cup year and stuff like that. Who might become available is one that's going to be intriguing. Cheryl Scott Olsen is here. Kenny is calling it. He says that Scott Olsen will be a sensation for us. Rangers January transfer window, when you think about the Ramseys, when you think about the Silvers, etc., it isn't ideal. We really need a big investment like this to work. Scott Olsen, to be a success at Rangers, needs to put the numbers on the board that takes Rangers to a league title. I think we all know that. But it is an exciting one. Kenny says he'll be a sensation. What are you saying to Scott Olsen?
Listen, if he's even a quarter as good as our last Danish winger, then I will be absolutely delighted. I would be over the moon with that. And I think in terms of the January window, you have to go back almost the time of when we got Davy Weir, Stephen Davis, to actually think of, and Michael O'Halloran as well, to think of signings that we got in that January window that were brilliant signings and that did a job for us. So
can I just say that we signed Scott Wright in January, and he single-handedly took us to 55.
Well,
Scottish Cup and the final. So just saying.
I was going to say, when you said Scott Olsen initially at the very start of the pod, I did think you said Scott Wilson. I thought you were just thinking back and harping back to the Halcyon days when he signed.
Yeah, but listen, if he's as quarter as good as our last Danish winger, I think we'll be laughing. There's so I can't say I've seen a huge amount, but the excitement around him gets me excited, because everybody that's watched him, I know he was meant to be here a long time ago as well. This is not the first attempt to get him. So the fact that that Danny Rule is so keen to get him, that inspires me and gives me confidence in him as well.
Yeah, you of course mean Brian Laudrup. We'll let you off with that. Peter Lovenkrands was definitely a forward. But if he can score the goals and get numbers like those two had, Cheryl, then yeah, we're certainly laughing. To what now? I think that's where we say, I mean, it's quite easy to say, just keep winning. But that's ultimately where we are, Rob. Like, Rangers' job now is to concentrate on themselves. And I've seen it quite a lot. People are talking about Hearts, and they're almost saying that this is a given now that O'Neill's back at Celtic, that they're going to win the league. And nobody's really mentioning Rangers, and that suits me perfectly. Just let us get on with our job quietly and effectively in the background. I'm quite happy with that. And obviously, Rangers need to keep winning. And it's that steady incline of improvement that we're seeing individually. Your Fernandes is your suitors, Raskin, Diamande. Can Gassama start hitting form? Sometimes he looks like he's interested. Other times he looks like he's well off it. Asgard's chipping in with goals, so can Scott Olsen come in? Can Miovski go on a decent run? Because Miovski can get 15 goals for Rangers. Maybe not between now and the end of the season, but he can pitch in with goals. We just haven't been able to get the best out of him. So can we tweak it? Can we find that? I think that has got to be Rangers' key. Just one game at a time. Go and beat Dundee. Don't worry about what happens elsewhere, because it's going to benefit us no matter what happens. If it's a home or away win or a draw, then Rangers are going to benefit from that. The European games for me are completely negatable. I don't think there's anything that we need to worry about at all in those games. We're not going to qualify. So can we keep the momentum building? Can we give some game time? Yeah, I think we can. We look to at least win the home game. Porto away, it's going to be tricky. But, the here and now for Rangers is simply one game at a time, below the radar, and keep winning, in my opinion. Rob, where do you sit?
Exactly the same. I mean, I think I'd probably only slightly differ on the European side of things, because I don't know if that would help us from a coefficient standpoint. And that's one of the things that might impact us. Should we be in the position where we win the league, we can obviously are the only team in Scotland that would still be able to go straight into the Champions League group stages if we did that. I think the only danger to that is potentially Olympiacos. So again, I haven't really looked into it in too much detail, but if it meant that it secured that position to give us a chance at getting straight into group stages, I'd want us to pick up a win or two in the last couple of European games if we could. But the manager said it himself, and I think that's the way that the squad are looking at it. Is you just win the next game, and if you just focus on winning the next game, you're going to be in a good position at the end of the season. We can't get too carried away. I mean, think back to where we were probably September time. I think half of us had probably written off the season and thought, right, that's it, done. Pack up your bags and forget about going to watch a football, because it was done. And it just goes to show that what can happen when you're well organised and are able to simplify things for a group of players. The one thing I'd love to see is us being a bit more not energetic, but a bit more fluid going forward. I think sometimes we get a little bit slow when we get into the final third, and for all intents and purposes, defensive side of things has been looked at and fixed. I'll touch wood that it continues to go like that. For us, it's now just about the forward play, and I think you've seen signs of it in some of the games that we've seen. There's been some cracking moves that we've had, slick one-touch passing in midfield, and it's just about building and seeing more of that happening in each of the games that we're watching. But yeah, for me, it is just simply all about winning the next game if we can. And that's the thing that I think most of us will be focusing on, because if we do that and we win every game from now until the end of the season, I'm pretty sure we'd be happy come the end of it.
Yeah, we certainly would be if we were to manage that. It's going to take an incredible run of form, Cheryl. We've came through a hell of a run, but on the horizon already is Hibs away, Motherwell away, Hearts at home. So it doesn't get any easier. But I think that might help this team, because that momentum that we've built up, we just simply have to keep it going. The question on the title of the podcast is, can we last the pace? I don't think there's any point genuinely in looking 2, 3, 4 games ahead. It's one game at a time for us. We'd be foolish to write off Dundee. It was only a month ago that we were saying this squad wasn't capable. So it needs to be a game at a time. Just work on what we have to do, concentrate on that, and I'm pretty sure that'll take us to where we want to go.
Yeah, but do you know what we're doing it now? And I'm still a big feardy, so I'm still like, but the team aren't, Stevie. They are approaching these games with a lot more confidence than they were, as Rob says, back in September time. For me, I think, can we win it? What do we need to do? I think it's dealing with your Dundees, your Kilmarnocks, your St Mirrens, because actually the Old Firm games this season, we've been all right. I think it's those teams that employ the low block that we've struggled against. We've struggled to do anything. We've now got Olsen. It's those teams that we need to find a way to kill off early as well, and do them. And like you say, it's one game at a time. But those games worry me slightly more than the bigger games, because they are where we have stumbled this season. So a game at a time, focus on those games, what's in front of us, and just keep playing with the confidence that Danny Rowell's instilled in them so far.
Off the pitch, Rob, we seem to be quietly going about our business. Jim Gillespie will be our new CEO coming in from St Mirren, we know that. But Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi were strong after the removal of our previous incumbents to say that they would be very much in charge and overseeing things. Rangers have stayed away from the front and back pages relatively further off-field. Jim Gillespie and that off-field appointment, it would be nice if Rangers could settle down and be the things that we were worrying about and talking about on the pitch only, and off the field things taking care of itself with an efficiency that we've not seen in a really long time. Nobody needs or wants it to always be a drama and a basket case. So I think when Andrew Kavanagh's major tasks now is keeping it that way, keeping it quiet. Jim Gillespie knows the league. He knows Rangers. He's going to be able to go to war and fight for us in our corner, hopefully with the league over things that we're not impressed with. What do you make of the appointment?
I don't know much about Jim Gillespie. I think you look at what he's done at Kibble. I think he's done a fairly good job there. St Mirren, I believe he'd helped with the transition into fan ownership as well there. Seems to be pretty well respected. I think for me, it doesn't matter about what he's done. It matters what he's about to do when he takes the hot seat at our club. I don't give a toss what he's done at St Mirren and Kibble. I only care about how he's going to act and what he's going to do for Rangers. I would echo your comments though about Andrew Kavanagh in the wider exec team. It seems like that they are present a lot more than we probably thought that they would be. And again, I think it stems from how bad the initial decisions that they made went down. And I think they've recognised that they have to be there to fix it. The stuff happening around the stadium, the fan consultation, the willingness to spend money on that as well can only benefit the club in the longer term. I think for us, it's about defending the club where it needs to be defended. And we're not going to go into that topic tonight, but I still think there's more that we could do when there are certain things that happen in games that are continually happening. And you look at the amount of goals that we've had chopped off this year compared to others as a potentially prime example. It is about making sure that the fan experience is better. I think there are things that could be done around the club. So it's going to be interesting to see when he does officially join and we start to hear a wee bit more about the visions and plans that the exec team have that he'll be leading. And I think we just need to give him give them all a little bit of patience. Ultimately, we wanted them to fix the mess that was on the pitch to begin with. They've done that. They are in the process of doing that, and they have put their money where their mouth is. You look at some of the pictures and stuff that have gone round about potential stadium views and stuff like that. It looks cool, but the proof will be in the pudding once they've done that fan consultation and then they put the action plan in place to say, right, here are the activities that we are going to do over the next 12 months in order to act on that. So for me, it's all about what they're going to do when he sets foot in the door. And hopefully he knows the club. He knows what it stands for, and he's going to really understand what's required, because I think some of the time, we've appointed executives that just don't get Rangers. They don't get the fan base. They don't get the size and stature of the club, and they think that being part of a executive team at other clubs is good enough and they know best. And I think that's the thing that irks the Rangers fans. We know the club better than them. We know the club better than anybody else. So when we see stuff that isn't going right, we will call it out and we will make it an issue. So hopefully he understands that, and the decisions that he takes when he steps foot in the door are going to benefit and set this club up for future success.
Yeah, Cheryl. Andrew Kavanagh was in the media room on Friday night. He likes to pop in every now and then. He's a very talkative guy. I've spoke a lot about him, a lot of what I believe Andrew Kavanagh will do. I remain absolutely positive that he's the right man for Rangers Football Club and the aspirations he has to take us where we need to go. I believe that he does have them. I think that he backed the wrong horse or two at the start of the season and he got it completely wrong, but he's rectifying that as best he can. Commercial chief is in, CEO is in. I'm interested to find out what you think of Andrew Kavanagh. You've met him, you've spoke to him. What do you think of our chairman and the steps he's made to rectify the mistakes? And by the way, it may be critical to say mistakes and everything else. I think it's right that we do say that, because if you ask him, he completely owns that himself, and he does go with his hands up and say we have made mistakes and we have learned and we're learning as we go. So although that may be seen as being ultra harsh on him, he's realistic enough to be able to put his hands up and say it himself.
No, I think that was what was really good about him for me, Stevie. I think the fact that he hasn't hidden from those decisions being not the right one for our club, and I guess as quickly as they could, that was remedied. And I kind of like the fact it was remedied in quite a cutthroat manner. the way that they went about getting rid of the Wellington Stewart as well, and they didn't dress it up as, they've done an exceptionally good job. But they were, if you read between the lines, it was very clear that they weren't happy with what they were doing and the direction that the club were going in. I like the fact, I think it was Andrew Kavanagh that came out and said that they were initially trying to run us kind of like a mini Premiership club. And he was very, very clear now on that's not the way that we have to, that we can go. So I think him being front facing, him coming into the press room, I think is an excellent thing. He's taking questions from us. He's talking to us about what we think. And I think that's huge. He knows that, to a certain extent, fan media like ourselves, like Heart and Hand, like all the other organisations as well, we can carry the voice of the fans, and we're not scared to say to them, look, this is what went wrong, these are our opinions on it. And the fact that he's listening to us and is willing to do that, I think is a huge thing. I think it's a huge positive as well. I think with Jim Gillespie coming in, bringing somebody in with that knowledge of Scottish football is huge. It's absolutely huge. If you look at somebody like Bisgrove, it was all very commercial. It was how many shirt partners we could get. It was all about sponsorship. But I think now, as Rob said, we're looking at the stadium, we're getting the stuff on the pitch correct, and I think it's a huge step in the right direction for us. And let's face it, it was really, really badly needed. If you look at the way that the club was being run with the best of intentions over the last few years, I think we really are heading in the right direction.
I'd love to think that this was true, Rob. I'd love to think we get that efficiency. Talking of efficiency, Rangers did dispatch Annan with 5 goals on Friday night. It was expected, of course it was. It was a professional job. A lot of players rested, a lot of players taking time out, a chance to give, some holidays to Raskin and Butland and Suter, etc. That's all positive for us. I'm not going to sit here and say it was all magical and wonderful, because we should beat Annan 5-0. So we need to be careful of that. But what I liked about it, Rob, is that it was comfortable, it was efficient, and let's be honest, Russell Martin's Rangers were a total bin fire against Alloa at Ibrox, and that the other night, was just efficient. It was fine. It was no drama. It was 5 goals, and it was more positives for the club. Easily dealt with. 3 signings beforehand. There was a normality about it that Rangers have missed for years.
Yeah, absolutely, Stevie. I think the only disappointing thing that I took away from the game was that there was some fringe players that I felt probably could have done a bit more to really show that they could have been part of the club, but they didn't. This fixture, if it was under another manager, probably would have absolutely petrified me, because it could have been a massive banana skin. And there was the first 5 minutes or so, I think it took us a wee bit of time, especially after Jigger running onto the wrong side of the pitch for kick-off, which is amazing. Guy obviously must be colourblind as well, because they couldn't see the blue shirts in the other half and ran into the Annan half. But 5 goals, a worldie, a hat-trick for Miovski to give him his confidence. It's it was as routine as it was going to get, and it was good to see. I was surprised at the crowd, to be honest, because you see how bad the crowds have been at the start of the year, and it's tailed off a wee bit. So to get as many people through on a Friday night was actually really good as well. So it was your bog standard cup game against a lower opposition that we should have. I think the only disappointing thing is, and by the sounds of it, is the manager probably wanted to bleed a few more youngsters, but couldn't because of the daft rules that we've got up here that wouldn't let him play, like Kyle Glasgow and stuff. So it's exactly the type of game that we should be doing, that sort of thing. And 5-0, no disrespect to Annan, they worked hard, but it was a professional job done by the team.
Yeah, Cheryl, it was the normality of it that I was impressed with. A good night's work. I don't think we're all going to be sitting here, jumping out our seats at 5 goals against Annan, with no disrespect to them. But it was efficient. It was normality, and and Joe, to be honest, I enjoyed the stress-free element of it, because that's what it should be like at Rangers. And sadly, for a very long number of years, it hasn't been. And I hope that, just like the off-field stuff, the on-field stuff can start or continue to normalise itself, in that Rangers just get results, just go around our business, just become efficient as a football team. And that drama that we have seemed to go from one to the other just curtails itself, and Friday night becomes normality when we do come round to those sort of games, and hopefully the majority of our matches.
Well, can I just say, first of all, I'm very jealous of your relaxed, enjoyable evening, because I was sat between Dingwall and Lego as I viewed the game, so I had far from that. However, I think what Rangers did incredibly well was they played a blinder with the unveiling of the 3 signings before the game. I can't remember, I don't know, the last time that we actually did that, and it went out on social media at the same time as we were actually being introduced to them. I think that helped with the sort of positivity around the stadium. It got everybody moving. Obviously, I didn't see it, but we had the wee concert at half time as well, so it was a great atmosphere, and it did draw out a really good crowd. I thought I think Rob touched on it, I thought the first 10 minutes we looked a wee bit ropey. However, you're playing a squad of guys that haven't played together and are not usually on the pitch either, so that was going to tell a wee bit. And I thought it was credit to Annan, because I think up until the 3rd goal was scored, they actually kept going for it. They were quite happy to press us, and I thought their goalie had an absolutely brilliant game as well. Somebody, I'd be interested to get you guys' thoughts on it. I do think he'll go out on loan, and I think he should go out on loan, but I thought that Finlay Curtis played really, really well. Again, we need to put it in context. It's against Annan in the Cup at home, but if you think back to the 6th of February last year, when we played Queen's Park, I don't think we can take that for granted.
No, we can't. And sadly, I think in recent years we've not been able to, and that's probably the overriding thing that I took away from Friday night. Finlay Curtis for me would go out on loan, Rob. There would be another 6 to join him. I would be not unhappy to lose Matondo, Dowell. You could chuck Rothwell. Yeah, I couldn't remember his name for some bizarre reason there. You could chuck in Rothwell. You could send Giga back on loan. You could or cancel his loan if that worked for the football club. You could send Danilo out as well. You could let Bayrami go. So there's plenty of numbers in there that could leave the club, Rob. And there's probably that's going to happen towards the end of the window. I think that's absolutely fine. We need to find out where Cornelius is as well. Probably a question for the manager at some point. So there's business to be done. Rangers have done the big business, most likely. But bizarrely, in saying this, and it sounds weird having spent so much money, the next 2 could be ultimately key to where it takes this team as we do push on and try and kick on. We're back in it. What we do now could have a massive effect, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. On Cornelius, I did actually manage to meet him on Friday night, and he did say he's kind of 2 or 3 weeks away from actually getting back on the training pitch, but he's really happy with the progress that he's made. So I reckon if he gets back in there, you're probably looking at maybe mid to the end of February that he's going to be back. So, is that going to be enough time for him to make an impact or be part of the squad again, or is it going to leave us? Is it going to leave us too tight? I feel sorry for wee Curtis. I think he's been shoved out as a winger when most of his football, I think, has been played through the middle at the youth level, and that's where he got the biggest goal return. I thought he did him and Aaron's actually linked up really, really well in that first half. I felt so a few times where Aaron's chipped it in behind the Annan defence, and wee Finlay was onto it like a shot. So I thought those 2 were linking up well, but he needs game time, and he needs regular game time if he's going to develop. So it would make sense, and I think the rumours of a loan to Kelly being under Neil McCann, who, let's face it, wasn't too bad a winger. If you're going to learn how to play wing off somebody like that, then it's going to make him a good player. The other one that I saw had been linked with a move is Insiala, going over to Motherwell, and again, the way that they play football would be a really good loan move for him, because ultimately we want to see him in a team that is going to be playing out for the back, and it gives him regular game time in the Scottish League. But the pleasing thing for me was listening to the manager when asked, does he need to get players out the door before he can sign anybody else? And the response was, well, no. We can still sign players, which is good. But there are going to be a few there that are dead weight, and we do need to start shifting them out the door. The big problem that we've got with the wages that they're paid, getting rid of them is going to be easier said than done, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. Plenty of interesting things to come in this window, ladies and gentlemen, that's for sure. Rangers have started really well. 3 strong signings. What we do next and what they do on the pitch could be key to what has been a fantastic run for the club. What next is certainly one to watch, that's for sure. Cheryl, always a pleasure, young lady. Thank you very much.
And can I just say, for saying young lady, you're now my favourite podder. Thank you. It's a pleasure being with you.
Rob, always a pleasure, young man. Thank you very much.
See, it now means nothing, Stevie, because you've just called Rob young. So, it's back to being, Christ, probably Scotty, maybe? Don't know. Neither of you two.
I flirt with everyone, Shezza. You should know that by now. Rob,
thank you, Stevie. It's been brilliant, mate. It was great being on with you. Cheryl, not so much. I'll just tolerate her, but that's fine.
Yeah, you can't have everything, Rob. What can we say? Massive thanks to our Sunday sponsors, local dart shop online. Huge thanks to Johnny and all the team there. Our regular sponsors, huge thank you to Rhino Express, Clyview Fire Protection and Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, and Candid. Huge thank you to them. Thousands of you watching, as per usual, at 6 o'clock on a Sunday evening. Thank you so much for all your support. If you haven't, please like and subscribe on YouTube. That really helps us grow. If you want to join the pod, I think you can by joining up. Wrong one. Going over there, you can scan that and become part of what is almost 750 members for the squad, for the show. So we're at massive member numbers. What have we got coming this week? Monday night. We'll be back. I think it's just Kenny and I, because Davey's still on holiday and Amrit's not available this week, so I think it's just Kenny and I. And then Wednesday, Chris, myself and Kenny. Thursday, matchday vlog will come from Kenny and I. There's a podcast on Friday night, also from Andrew and the team. And then we're back with matchday coverage on Sunday rather, against Dundee. So of the 7 upcoming days, ladies and gentlemen, there is 5 podcasts available. So we hope you're enjoying the output from Four Lads Had a Dream. If you do, please like and subscribe, as we said. To sum it up, I think what we would say, the last month for the Sunday show has been a positive one. It's nice to be able to come on and discuss some real positivity amongst Rangers club, being efficient off the park as they are being on it. Now all we need to do is keep going. Can we last the pace? One game at a time, but we're certainly well placed, that's for sure. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. Have a fantastic Sunday evening. Come join us again tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. We'll be live. Take care. Bye.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.